I'm going to go through about these 8 moves, and then we're going to get to a moment where it's the scenario that my opponent faced is the exact same scenario that Robert E. Lee faced when he was trying to decide whether or not to invade the North. Okay? Okay. So, the first move my opponent made was E4. Okay? Then I made E5. Take that pawn. So now, all right, it's getting more of an even material, and I'm in check. And guess what's right behind that check? Queen. Right? But I can block with a knight, which I did. But still, I'm thinking to myself, my goodness, he's got 2 pawns, I've got a knight, and my king is now stuck in the middle, and he's breathing down my throat. Right. So, this is the conundrum that Robert E. Lee faced. Listen, the North had more factories and more men, straight up. The South was never going to win a long war against the North. Robert E. Lee understood that. He knew that he was outmatched in manpower, and he was outmatched in supplies. So he knew he had to act and take the initiative, and he took lots of risks. He had just won 2 to 3 big battles in Northern Virginia. And the North had retreated back to Washington, D.C. So, he had just won all these battles. He's at the edge of the South. The idea of the South invading the North was crazy because the North was just more powerful. But he had 3 options. 1, to retreat back and get supplies and reinforcements. 2, to stay in Northern Virginia. The problem with that is because they've been fighting there for a long time, the men had foraged the land. There was no more food on the land. There's no more things to hunt. There's no more food there. So if they stay there and rest, what are they going to eat? Nothing. The third option, to invade the North. But a third of his men didn't even have shoes anymore. They were tired. They'd been fighting and fighting and fighting. But the thing is, if he retreats back and gets formed again, he loses the initiative. He's not on the attack. And, like we said, the longer the war drags out, the North will win. This is that situation. This is that situation. He has had the battles. He won the battles in Northern Virginia. This is Northern Virginia. Okay? The problem now is, though, the resources have run out. There is no more amazing move right now there. Right? We can look all day. There's no more amazing move to continue the initiative. So he either retreats back and gains more, or he stays there and gets more reinforcements, bringing that knight over, bring the bishop over, or he maybe launches an attack, maybe takes that knight, maybe launches more. This is real life. Robert E. Lee faced this in real life. And the decision that Robert E. Lee made, actually, a couple weeks later, a month later, was the deadliest battle on the history of American soil. So the decision that Robert E. Lee made in this situation cost more lives in one battle than ever before, even to today, on American soil. Do you guys want to know what Robert E. Lee did?
What? He took the knight.
He went with initiative. He went forward. He had 65,000 men. The North, just in Washington, D.C., had 150,000. And he launched an attack. And he said, guys, I know you don't have shoes, but we're going. We can't go back. We can't stay here. We're going forward. And you know what happened? It's actually really interesting. Okay? He decided, I can't go to Washington, D.C. The fortifications of Washington, D.C. are too strong. So what he did is he decided, I'm going to go towards it, and I'm going to go left into Pennsylvania. And I'm going to draw them out. Okay? The problem was, there was a couple garrisons for the North, south of where they were. And for them to get a supply line from the south to where they were, they needed to get rid of these 2 garrisons. So he had 65,000 men. He split his men. He took half of his men and he said, you go fight these garrisons quickly. We're going to go get here and station. You do that, then we're going to create a supply line and we're going to wait for the North to come to us. And we're going to beat them out here where they don't have the fortifications. And it was actually going to work. It was going to work, except one thing happened. When he sent, it was actually the orders 191. That's what they're actually called. When he sent the orders to his 5 generals, one of those orders on a little pamphlet thing got lost by the courier, the guy who carries it. And he didn't want to get in trouble because he might have gotten hung for such a thing. So when he lost it, he was like, oh dude. So he still goes to the general, and he knows the general had gotten a different copy and didn't think he needed one. And then he goes back, and the person, they usually get receipts for these things. The person who gets a receipt didn't ask for one. And he thought to himself, okay, I could tell them that I dropped it, but I'm just going to hope that I dropped it in like a creek and it dissolved and it's gone. But what really happened? A Union soldier found it right as they were splitting. And that Union soldier found it and said, it was actually wrapped around 3 cigars. And they smoked the cigars and they're like, what is this paper? And they looked at it and they were like, wait a second, that's Robert E. Lee writing to his generals. And they were like, oh, what if it's fake? What if they're trying to trick us? But actually there was a Union guy who recognized the handwriting because he had fought in the Mexican War with the guy who did the writing. He said, I can tell you that's real. In 3 hours, that paper was in the general of the Union, McClellan, his hands. And they immediately launched an attack on the half that was up here where General Lee was. Because they knew they were split. They were like, wait a second, we have way more men. They just split their army because they wanted to create the supply line. Let's attack them here now. And then the South was locked, and they had to retreat. Littlest things could dictate war. If that guy hadn't lost that, maybe the South would have won. And things would be certainly different now. So, let's look at the situation in this chess game. Everyone take 30 seconds to decide if you want to take the initiative like Robert E. Lee, if you want to stay in the barren wasteland of Northern Virginia and try to reinforce by getting the knight and the bishop and everybody else's, or do you want to retreat the queen back to safety and start again? Take 30 seconds.